Hello and welcome back. In this video I'll do as the title suggests. I'll take a lot of the Heartless introduced in Kingdom Hearts 2 and redraw them to potentially better fit in with Kingdom Hearts 1's Heartless gallery. I must clarify that I'm mainly doing this for fun and as a creative exercise. I'm not saying that these are bad designs and that I'm fixing them. I'm simply going to try and see if I can alter their designs to be more Kingdom Hearts 1 adjacent. I don't want to be perceived as someone trying to fix all the bad Kingdom Hearts 2 designs. Again, it's just for fun. I'll even alter a lot of designs I even like, that I even love. Because the exercise isn't to make them better, it's to make them fit in with Kingdom Hearts 1. And maybe, in a future video I might do the opposite and redesign a lot of the Kingdom Hearts 1 Heartless to be more similar to the Kingdom Hearts 2 ones. Okay. In my previous video I compared the Kingdom Hearts 1 Heartless with the Kingdom Hearts 2 ones. I went over the Heartless's general motifs and what the main differences were between the design philosophy in each of the games. I'd recommend you watch that before watching this one, as a lot of the things I discussed in that video is quite relevant for this one. But if you just want to keep on watching, I think you'll still be fine. After all, I'm just redesigning the Heartless, it's not gummy ship science. Fair to mention is that I'll also only deal with the field operative Heartless and leave the Kingdom Hearts 2 Heartless bosses for a future video depending on whether I feel like doing it, as well as if there's even an interest in me doing so. Last thing I'll say before we begin is that I'm very happy to finally finish this project. I first got the idea to do this in 2021 and did the first sketches later that fall. Then finished the majority of the redesigns summer of 2022. After I posted my previous video, I did some touch-ups on some of the redesigns, as well as threw in a few more Heartless I had originally let on through, but which I now thought would need some slight tweaks after all to have a proper chance of fitting in with Kingdom Hearts 1.
So, to start off with, the Heartlesses which originate from Kingdom Hearts 1 will of course not be redesigned for obvious reasons. The Shadow, Soldier, Large Body, Air Pirate, Fat Bandit, White Knight and Neo Shadow can safely go on through and enter the Kingdom Hearts 1 club, which I'll be calling it, with ease. Same goes for the Aerial Viking, as it's just an Air Pirate but with twice the attitude. The remaining Heartless will have to closely examine to see if they can waddle in as is, or if they'll need to go home and change to keep up with the club's dress code. I'll try to do my best at explaining why I think some of the Kingdom Hearts 2 Heartless could fit in well with the Kingdom Hearts 1 Heartless with next to no changes, as well as explaining why I think others wouldn't fit in so well, and what kind of changes I would make to have them fit Kingdom Hearts 1's design philosophy. And if I am at times unable to properly articulate my thoughts surrounding the various changes and alterations, hopefully my drawings can speak for themselves. The Magic Mages. Starting off, let's just quickly get these four out of the way. They originate from Kingdom Hearts 2, but they might as well have come from the first game. The Silver Rock, Emerald Blues, Crimson Jazz and Spring Metal are just a new set of Magic Mages
with hardly any noteworthy differences.
The only big difference between these and the ones from Kingdom Hearts 1 are the patterns. With the exception of the Final Mix exclusive Black Ballad, none of the previous ones have any patterns. I suppose their sizes are a worthwhile difference too, but still not one I really see matter. These differences are so tiny that I personally see no issue with them. I could easily see the Silver Rock partying through Wonderland, the Emerald Blues meditating in Deep Jungle, the Crimson Jazz blazing through Agrabah, as it already does in Kingdom Hearts 2, and I'm not gonna focus too much time on Kingdom Hearts 2's Final Mix exclusives, but the Spring Metal can be seen swimming through the depths of Atlantica, where it performs an epic cover of Under the Sea. The Land Siblings, with the spotlight on specifically the Land Soldier, is really quite fine as it is for this exercise. It's got a humanoid body with slightly exaggerated proportions, small waist, big forearms, large thighs, big head. It's evenly designed and very balanced. The Lance having a will of its own and the Soldier struggling to wield it is exactly the type of humor I expect from the Heartless. Where the Defender from Kingdom Hearts 1 had a strong working relationship with its shield, the Land Soldier have a harder time getting along with its weapon. They'll occasionally pull off a little attack, but usually by accident.
They've perfected the craft of failing successfully.
Similar to how Goofy is often portrayed in other media outside of Kingdom Hearts. I guess my only issue is that I find the Lance to be slightly over-detailed, and the Soldier could do with being a bit softer around the edges, and lean more towards a body type resembling soldiers, gargoyles and bandits, though it'll still be taller. The head could also see an increase in size. My new take on this Heartless, I could easily see this new one stumble around in Wonderland. Their clumsy nature would match the card soldiers quite well. Gargle Knight is one of those rare Kingdom Hearts 2 Heartlesses, which manages to feel menacing, at least in my opinion. Unlike the Gargoyle from Kingdom Hearts 1, this one retains his pedestal even after coming to life, which is a quite fun and creative feature. However, for the sake of this exercise, I'm unfortunately gonna have to remove it. It's just too square shaped and sharp. I could make it rounder, but even then I just don't see it appearing in Kingdom Hearts as is. And as is quite common among plenty of Kingdom Hearts 2 designs, this one as well is overall too angular for being allowed into Kingdom Hearts 1. The wings are too straight and are in need of some slight curves. While making the redesign, I wanted to somehow add a little nod to the pedestal, as well as retaining its zigzags. So I settled with having the Gargle Knight wear bracelets on its ankles. I also felt the original design was too devoid of colors, and thus I added some slight hints of blues and purples to it. As it is now, it feels slightly fuller of life with added colors and ultimately looks like a Neo Shadow with an emblem armor. Moving on to the Gargle Knight's crazy grandfather, who's fully prepared for an all-out war, the Gargle Warrior. It's not just me, right? This Heartless looks both immensely insane and old. If Master Xehanor's heart was slightly lighter, then this is 100% the Heartless he would have spawned rather than Ansem. It's cool and intimidating, but even Cloudstrife himself thinks his Heartless is way too spiky. At least for Kingdom Hearts 1 standards. Much like the previous Heartless, the pedestal goes straight into the bin, and the sharpness is turned down all the notches. It's generally got too much detail, so everything is being minimalized. I don't believe I have much more to explain, and I hope the changes speak for themselves. The original design is way sicker and a lot cooler, and I don't feel the redesign is particularly cool, but it does at least get an entry pass into the Kingdom Hearts 1 club. The next three Heartless we're going to consider are not actually from Kingdom Hearts 2, but rather Chain of Memories. Most people know this, but a lot of us didn't back then. I didn't even know Chain of Memories was a thing until I saw a trailer for Chain of Memories sometime in 2007. These three Heartless have an unfair bias advantage when considering their acceptance into the Kingdom Hearts 1 club, as they've already been clubbing with a lot of the Heartless from the first game at the Chain of Memories club. But there's still a couple of alterations which can be done to make the Tornado Step a bit more Kingdom Hearts 1 adjacent. As much as I enjoy its big yellow swirly eyes, they're so unlike any swirls seen in Kingdom Hearts 1 that I've decided to make them smaller, as well as to remove their color and make them pure black instead. I like its dark blue skin a lot, and the placement of its emblem, but as I mentioned in my previous video, none of the Kingdom Hearts 1 Heartless has their emblem appear directly onto what seems to be their pure blood body parts. I could have moved the emblem to be on the hat, but I felt the composition became too top heavy with the eyes already there. So I kept the skin color, but turned it into an emblem body and gave the Tornado Step a black pureblood head piercing through its blue skin suit instead. The remaining modifications are slightly changes to the proportions, as well as softening the legs, making them less sharp. The Crescendo could easily be placed in Wonderland in Kingdom Hearts 1, and no one would bat an eye. That's probably because the first time we're likely to ever see it is within Wonderland, but in Chain of Memories. Now this design goes against more or less everything I consider a typical Kingdom Hearts 1 Heartless. It's not humanoid, it hasn't got any swirls, and there's no zigzag patterns. The antenna hints at it ever so slightly though. It's mainly inspired by inanimate objects with a head resembling that of a musical note, a pair of headphones, and it's also got a beak shaped like a horn or a trumpet. However, it is also largely based on a creature known as the Horned Ducks from Alice in Wonderland, so it is kinda inspired by a living creature after all. I believe the Crescendo would feel more at home in Kingdom Hearts 1 Wonderland than it does in any of the Kingdom Hearts 2 worlds it appears in. Once again, that is probably largely due to me already being so used to seeing it in Wonderland in Chain of Memories next to a bunch of Kingdom Hearts 1 Heartless. As said, I feel this one could pass through and enter the Kingdom Hearts 1 club with relative ease, but for the sake of the exercise, let's try and make it a bit more Kingdom Hearts 1 appropriate. The changes I went for aren't that huge as you can see. I added a swirl to the antenna, removed the spiky parts on the headphones, and gave it some legs. I don't see it losing its bouncy nature as it's fully capable of jumping similarly around with its legs. I also changed the lower part of the body to have different colors so that only the head is pure blood. Everything I just said about the Crescendo can be said about the Creeper Plant too. It's not humanoid, it's got no swirls, and you can barely make out the zigzags right above where the legs connect to the ground. There's also the zigzag mouth, of course. This one also originates from Wonderland in Chain of Memories, and thus I can once again quite easily see this Heartless appearing there in Kingdom Hearts 1 as well. But for the sake of the exercise, let's give it a go and see if I can make it a bit more Kingdom Hearts 1 style. Though I'm really struggling with knowing what to do with this one. Should I give it a full body? Not all Kingdom Hearts 1 Heartless are humanoid, so there's no need to force all of the redesigns to be so. Should I replace the spikes on its heads with swirls instead? I don't see that really solving anything. In the end, this is what I was able to muster up. I removed the spikes and the metal rings on its head in favor of zigzags surrounding it, and I also darkened the head a bit and did away with the mouth, giving it a blank and soulless expression similar to the shadows. I also simplified the lower neck to just have a ring around it rather than the balls it originally had. I also view this version as walking around a lot more than its Kingdom Hearts 2 self, and only occasionally piercing its roots down into the ground to attack you from afar. I'm not greatly pleased with how it turned out, and really struggle with knowing what to do here without diverging too far away from the original concept. Thankfully, the bouncer is willing to look the other way due to its Chain of Memories membership. The Morningstar is one of my favorite new Heartless designs from Kingdom Hearts 2. God, I love it. I love its shape, I love how spiky it is, the insanely thin limbs pair with that enormous body. The colors are so good, and even the final mix colors are great, which is rare, and fighting it's just really fun. The reaction command where you bounce it like a basketball is always so satisfying to perform. But for it to get a pass, it'll need to grind away those sharp edges and smoothen its whole appearance. What I've altered here is replacing the sharp feet with soft shoes reminiscent of those found on a large body or a fat bandit. The hands still retain its sharp claws, but are made to be more similar to the soldier's hands, which are curvier and not so straight. I've also given the spikes a slight curve, and the zigzags around its stomachs are now reduced to just one that's thicker. The head has also been made a bit smaller and pops a bit more up from its collar. I'll be honest and say that this is one of the transformations I'm the most satisfied with. Again, I love the original design, but for the exercise this is one of the ones I'm the most pleased with. As it looks now, it's so Kingdom Hearts 1 adjacent that it's threatening some of the OG Heartless to take their spots. And Stealthnik is working overtime at the Colosseum to try and prove it's an actual Heartless, and not just some regular reptile with some stolen emblem. Next up are the Bookmaster and its Cavern of Remembrance counterpart, the Runemaster. Their design follows a lot of cues from Kingdom Hearts 1 with being humanoid and having a swirl on its hat. The colors are so very playful, and as is, I could easily see it appearing in Kingdom Hearts 1 in worlds such as Traverse Town, Wonderland, Monstro and Hollow Bastion. It's simple and quite soft in its design, and could fit in well next to enemies such as the Pirate and the Bandit. It feels like it was deliberately designed to be a counterpart to Kingdom Hearts 1's Wizard, which makes further sense as both Heartless originate from the same world in their respective games. I have a bit more issues with the Runemaster's palette, but I could see that one show up in Halloween Town. It's also a Final Mix exclusive, and thus feels sort of similar to a lot of Kingdom Hearts 1's Final Mix recolors, and could better fit in with that palette anyways. Next up we have the Rapid Thruster. I've previously stated that I have no fucking clue as to what these creatures are meant to be. But as Nuclear Synapses pointed out in my previous video, they're most likely based on Hornets, which I can sort of see now that it's pointed out, though I still find their design to be quite disturbing and strange. They feel like they've suffered through some awful experiment performed by Vexen, like he saw a shadow and thought, this fucker could fly, and thus cut off its arms and feet, did some shit to its ass and threw on a helmet. I gotta say, I love fighting these guys. I love it so much. In the Land of Dragons, the Underdome, Pride Rock, I love hacking away at these bastards. As strange and wonderful as it is, there's something which has always slightly bothered me about them. Unfortunately, I've never managed to pinpoint the issue. And I also don't know whether or not it could fit within Kingdom Hearts 1 as it is, or if it would need a couple of changes. I guess it could work fine, but here's my alternate design anyways. I honestly don't know whether this could fit better or not. I really don't know with this one. My thought process behind it was to lean more into the deformed shadow aspect of it, but I kinda prefer the horizontal shape the original has over mine, which is more similar to an L, which I guess is what you could call this design too. The original is just a lot more streamlined, I think, while mine is just a bit too logical, I think. Again, I really don't know with this one, but I thought I'd give it a shot rather than not, as that's the whole point of the video, so yeah. Oh my god, yes, yes, yes! The next one is Assault Rider, a strong foe with a striking design and a dominating presence. Assault Rider is yet another top favorite of mine in terms of Heartless designs, and is among the Heartless which got completely obliterated by the Final Mix recolors. Oh boy. Oh, that's a different video. It's inspired by the mythical Kentars with Chinese-inspired armor. The weapon it bears has a swirl on it, and so does the tip of its tail. It used to be rumored that this one was originally meant to appear in Kingdom Hearts 1, but was cut due to not fitting into any of the worlds. Firstly, I can't find any reliable source for this information, so I'm guessing it's probably not true. Secondly, if it is true, then I completely disagree with whoever claimed that, as I could easily see this being an original Heartless, exclusive to Olympus Coliseum in Kingdom Hearts 1. Or even in Chain of Memories if it was ready to be used back then. But it's making its grand entrance in the Land of Dragon is great. It's probably one of the few new Kingdom Hearts 2 designs that feel like as much of a threat as the Defender, the Wyvern and the Invisible, without going overboard with details, sharp angles and spikes. this one gets an easy pass into the Kingdom Hearts 1 club. The Nightwalker, the superior ghost, zombie, undead, whatever Kingdom Hearts 2 Heartless. It's based on the Jiangshesh, which is a type of reanimated corpse in Chinese legend and folklore. This feels like yet another typical Kingdom Hearts 1 Heartless design in my opinion. The zigzags are represented on its hat, its outer robe, and serving as its mouth. But there's also a fourth representation if you look close enough, namely its fingers, which is just so good. I don't know if that was an intentional use of the motif, or if they were solely meant to just be standard crooked fingers, but nevertheless, it still resembles the motif and is still fantastic. But back to why this feels so Kingdom Hearts 1-esque. It's also humanoid, which isn't a must but can often help. Its proportions are similar to that of a soldier, bouncy wild, bandit, etc. It's inspired by a creature rather than a thing, and even the shoes seem quite similar to several of the puffy ones from the first game. The Nightwalker, though it's not associated with Halloween Town, feel more like a natural addition to that world alongside the White Knight, Gargoyle and Search Ghost, as opposed to the Trick Ghost, which lied on his resume and got cast as a frightening Heartless in both Halloween Town and the Underworld, when it very clearly isn't even a Heartless, but a Dream Eater with a facelift. As you can probably gather at this point, the Nightwalker is fine as it is, and can creepily but gracefully move on with ease. The Bolt Tower is yet another one I struggle with a lot. It almost feels like it could fit in, yet not quite. When I was younger and first encountered this Heartless, I was convinced this was some sort of new guard armor. Its design just begged for additional limbs to play around with. I was quite disappointed and saddened, quite frankly, at the end of the game when, during the credits, we saw the Bolt Tower's application for additional body parts being rejected. And it flew off into the horizon with tears in its eyes and a broken dream that was nothing more than a far-off fantasy. As it is, I feel it's a bit awkward. And as I said, I really struggle with figuring out how to turn this into a Kingdom Hearts 1 Heartless, as it feels very close but also not. And then I realized, just turn that fucker around. The redesign I settle on is really just the Bolt Tower upside down. An opposite tower, if you will. I made some color changes, added in a few details where it felt weird to just have nothing, and also moved the swirl to still be on top. I guess I still should have done away with the spikes, or at least some of them, as they really aren't that present in Kingdom Hearts 1, so here's a version without those. I'll leave it up for you to decide which is a better fit for Kingdom Hearts 1. The hook pet is exactly the type of odd combination I expect from the Heartless. It's frightening, cute, and strange. I only really have some slight issues with its wings. They're just flat surfaces that aren't that visually exciting. Same goes for the ears or those small cylinders on its head. It's just a bit boring, and not similar to the shape language we've seen on other Heartless. I changed its wings to be more similar to bat wings while still not being one-to-one with them, as well as being more similar to previously winged Heartlesses. And I also changed the cylinders to small swirly antennas. I also like the horns on its wings, but chose to move them to the side of the head as I didn't see them working well with the new wings. Beyond that, it's a really fun Heartless and a great addition to the existing roster. Next up is... oh, not you again. Well, next up is the Trick Ghost. And by extension, the Magic Phantom, I suppose. Okay, listen here, you little goober. I see right through your little trick. You might have the rest of them fooled, but I know that you're not what you're pretending to be. Now, I'm going to use my pencil, and I'm going to do what the Blue Fairy did to Pinocchio. I'm going to turn you into a real Heartless.
Actually, the fairy godmother didn't turn Pinocchio into a Heartless.
What do you mean the Blue Fairy didn't turn him into...
To once again reiterate that this is just a fun exercise. I'm not out here trying to fix all of these Heartlesses. I'm just trying to see if I can alter their designs to make them feel more like Kingdom Hearts 1 Heartless. And in a future video, I might challenge myself to do the opposite. But this shit right here, this is personal. So, I'm gonna do something that I'll only do this once. Let's turn this emblemed Heartless into a pureblood one. It's something I've so far steered away from, as I feel it would too often just straight up betray the original idea. I may change a lot with the other designs, but I still try my best to stick to their initial designs and intentions. Aside from its swirly tail, or antenna based on which way it's turned, there's little hair that has it feel like a Kingdom Hearts 1 Heartless. Or I suppose its wide open mouth and gleeful smile is somewhat reminiscent of the Dark Ball. And had we only kept the airborne form and removed the upside down walking version, I guess it could have worked slightly better. My issue regarding its walking form are the tiny legs it jumps around on, as they're far from anything witnessed in the first game. I also find the cattle it carries to be a bit too cartoony, so I'll alter that to something it could have picked up in the Underworld. And as I'm turning it into a pureblood, I'll also be borrowing the Dark Bull's tentacles for the Trick Ghost antenna tail. And here's the finished result. And of course, here's the upside down version as well. Its new legs still feel a bit strange though. I tried to have them vaguely resemble the pot spider's legs, but I can't deny they still feel off. Not as off as its former tiny awkward triangle stomps, but still off. As horns they're slightly more serviceable. Lastly, as much flack as I give the Trick Ghost, I want to slightly remedy that by commending it for certain aspects. Firstly, it altering between its two forms is a first for any Heartless and a really neat design choice. Unlike the Graveyard and Toy Soldier, which also has altering forms, the Trick Ghost effortlessly changes between its two forms by simply turning 180 degrees around. And secondly, I really like its stitched mouth, which isn't just stitched with strings, but is straight up stapled together. It helps raising its level of creepiness by a little. Overall, I like this design. It's just, as a Heartless design, well, you know by now. I'm starting to sound like a broken record. It just doesn't hold a candle next to its predecessor, the Surge Ghost. The Rabbit Dog is, as a design, quite cute, fun, and goofy. I like that it's got no neck and that color is around its entire body. The big mouth and the long tongue are also very amusing. It reminds me a bit of the Ducky Goose Dream Eater, which is to say that it doesn't particularly feel like Heartless at all. The eyes are wrong, the feet are off, even the swirly antennas feel too blocky and just incorrect. The feet seem to be inspired by the swirls used a lot in the Hercules film, but it just looks off. And they kind of look like tiny wheels instead. It's a really odd place to add that motif. If that is what they were going for, they were certainly going for something. For this design to work in a Kingdom Hearts 1 environment, there's a few things we'll need to change. As much as I want to keep the color around its body, that has to unfortunately go. The feet will be proper feet and not tiny wheels, and it'll now have arms, though I still envision it running on all four when approaching you. It's a really odd design that sticks out from even many of the Kingdom Hearts 2 Heartlesses, and it'll continue to stick out in its redesign, which is why I've given it the very rare cross eyes, only previously seen on the pirate. The palette is more or less the same, the last thing I've added are some zigzags, and here's the final design. As a design, it's not fantastic, but I think it would have worked a bit better in Kingdom Hearts 1, and maybe even Kingdom Hearts 2. As I said, I like the original design, but I don't like it as a Heartless design, same as with the Trick Ghost. I just don't really like it appearing in the underworld. Feels more like something that show up in Timeless River. I think the idea was to have cute and whimsical hellhounds that serve as a decent threat early in the game, but they look more like Cerberus' wasted sperm instead. Minute Bomb. First thing I want to say about the Minute Bomb is that I totally adore the animation for this little guy. The tiny celebratory dance is so heckin' cute. The broken eggshell bomb helmet has the classic zigzags and the fuse is similar to the many swirls antennas we've seen so far. It's a very simple and odd design that could easily fit in with Kingdom Hearts 1. However, there are a few things I would change for it to fit in even more. I think the fuse is a bit too cartoony and could do with being a bit thinner and actually being a bit sharper for once. The design and animation is already so silly, so you don't need to overdo it. The head is also a bit visually uninteresting. It's just too symmetrical and could do with being more like an upside down egg. Just have it be slightly bigger on the top. As a general rule for designing, it's far more exciting to have lines that are asymmetrical. Not only is it visually more exciting to look at, but it's also often closer to how things really are. It's also more interesting to have the eyes either be slightly above or below the middle of the head. It's not something you have to do every time, but it felt right to add that here. It also felt natural to add swirl eyes to the forehead, and to not make the top part too busy, I moved the emblem down to its body. I also darkened the base head to have it match many other Heartlesses, which will often have a blue or differently colored body but a pitch black head. And one last thing that sort of bothers me. For years I've struggled to pinpoint what exactly it was that annoyed me, and I still can't quite describe it, but thanks to a glorious trailer, which graced our eyes back in 2019, I can at long last finally point to something else to better illustrate my problem. See the legs? Now look at these legs. Though they're proportionally different to their respective bodies, these legs are the same. I don't know what it is, but they give me the heebie-jeebies. So I've changed the main body to be the same as the Tornado Steps body, and I do envision it still being able to retain its cute little dance, but without having those off-putting toothpicks. And yep, here we go. Here's the final design. Ah, fuck, we're here. Okay. I know a lot of people really like Timeless River, and I absolutely admire the KH team's creators for managing to pull this off. It just never quite clicked with me, unfortunately. And that's despite growing up watching many of the cartoons it's referencing. The aeroplane is the one we'll deal with first, and within the confines of its world, I think it works. It matches the environment and the media is inspired by perfectly. It's first when you place it in other worlds, I struggle a bit. Its design feels very simple, almost too simple. I often find a Kingdom Hearts 2 Heartless to generally be slightly more detailed than a Kingdom Hearts 1 Heartless, but this one felt so lacking that it was almost begging for some additional details. And as a result, I might have gone slightly overboard and made the back of the plane a bit too much. And as you can also probably see, I've taken some inspiration from the Air Soldier. I struggled to properly detail my thought process here. I wanted to add more details and more motifs. I pushed it towards the Air Soldier to ground it in familiarity. And I wanted to add to the common strangeness of the Heartless, so I moved the propeller to spice it up with a touch of oddity. In the end, I wasn't particularly satisfied with the result, and less so when I added colors. The original coloring I went for felt a bit too mundane for Kingdom Hearts 1, but maybe that's just when this palette is paired with this exact design. I then pushed it more towards its original palette, and yeah, it feels kinda more appropriate. I decided to do one more color adjustment while also doing a few other tweaks. I'm still not sure if I'd let this guy into Kingdom Hearts 1. Maybe the original design had a better chance of entering. I'll leave it up to you to decide. Next on the list we've got the hammer frame. It's got a swirly antenna, is quite basic in its design, and though it's based on an object, it's got a humanoid appearance. It's more a Heartless dressed as a hammer, rather than a Heartless that is a literal hammer. Therefore, I'm of the opinion that the hammer frame could have fit in with Kingdom Hearts 1 easily. I could very easily see this one appearing in Traverse Town, the Colosseum Cups, and Monstro. And Wonderland too, most likely. Honestly, you could throw a lot of Heartless at Wonderland, and they'd all probably stick. I think the only alteration I would make is change the blue and yellow colors to be slightly more vibrant. Fuck this Heartless. Banish it to the realm of darkness, send it to the final world, just get it out of my sight. Or even better, send it to the Jungle Book world, cause we're never gonna get that. No, don't send it to Deep Jungle! I don't care that it got a life sentence for shooting that gorilla everybody loved. It's still playable in Kingdom Hearts 1. It's my favorite Disney world. Don't tarnish it with a hot rod, please! All jokes aside, I really fucking hate this Heartless. This is peak Kingdom Hearts cartooniness in the worst possible way. I get what they were going for, I just strongly disagree with it. Not only when it appears in other worlds, but even within the Timeless River itself. It's just too obvious in what it's going for. It's a car, it's just a car! And they've hardly done anything interesting with it. I struggled quite a bit with what to do with this one. How could we dress this up so it'd be allowed into Kingdom Hearts 1? I first tried to remix it a bit. Have it still be an obvious car, but give it a strange Heartless feel. Give it propellers and make it fly. But this ultimately just felt incorrect. I don't think this would work as an airborne Heartless, and besides the world's already got the aeroplane. I also wanted the new version to be able to retain a similar animation and attacks. My next attempt was to once again give it a flair of oddness by making the car be backwards. I also changed the wheels to have these cylinders it'd walk on, and lastly, to avoid the whole object coming alive, I gave it a driver. However, this didn't feel right either. I wanted to avoid using wheels as none of the Kingdom Hearts 1 Heartless has them, but this just looks wrong. The driving Dark Ball also just looks wrong. I was pleased with aspects of this design though, and decided to move forward with it, but to simplify it a bit. I removed the driver and brought back the wheels, though they're not actually attached to the car and work similar to how Rayman's limbs operate from the Rayman franchise. I can perfectly fine imagine this car driving around similarly to its original counterpart, as well as being able to stand up and initiate a boxing match. The decision to give it swirly eyes and no yellow ones was to give it a feeling of not being all there, as well as hinting towards that the pure blood parts of it might be hidden away somewhere within it. Maybe there's a tiny shadow where the car engine is meant to be. This is the design I ultimately was the most satisfied with. However, back when I was designing them, I still at that point ended up making another one, which is the one I finalized, even though this is the one, at the end of the day, I think is the best one for the exercise. Seeing as the Timeless River is based on those old Disney cartoons, I wanted to see if I could find a car from that era which looked a bit less goofy. The original Hot Rod could be based on multiple cars, but the closest design I could find was Donald's car from the comics. I found some cars from an old Donald cartoon, but what I chose to base this final design on was this car right here. I'm not sure if Mickey ever uses this car in any of the old cartoons, or if the artwork is even official. But this was the design I wished to go for. Once again, the wheels are unattached, and at the last minute, a driver was brought back to steer it. Similar to the aeroplane, I struggle a bit with coloring the final design, but I'm decently satisfied with how it turned out. I'm still not sure if any of these designs would be welcomed into Kingdom Hearts 1, but I feel like I've tried my best with this one, really. Cannon Gun, a fun design, but it's too obviously based on an object rather than a creature. The legs are nothing you'd find in the first game, as well as being too sharp, and the fuse, while humorous, is exactly like the fuse on a Minute Bomb, just way too cartoony. It's got those nice swirly eyes on the top, which we'll be keeping, as well as some zigzags, but I think we can make it slightly more menacing and Kingdom Hearts 1-like by having it be inspired by something like the pot and barrel spiders. I'm a bit uncertain about how I've colored it, as I've been with the past 3 ones now. My main issue here is just with the red parts of the legs. All I know is that I didn't want the red to just be on the top, and with the red fuse gone, I wanted the color to reappear somewhere else. But it feels a bit off in my opinion. But I do mostly think this design could have worked in Kingdom Hearts 1. Oh, and the emblem is on the back by the way, in case you were wondering, as it was on the original.
Fury, Globe and Ice Cube. I'm just gonna deal with them both at the same time. I like their vibe, I like the neurotic animation, I just don't really like their legs. So I've redesigned them to resemble Tornado Step's base body. I originally toyed around with having them resemble the Sea Neon's base body and having them fly, but it just didn't feel right for them. With the Tornado Step's body, I can still envision them frantically and stiffly jumping around on the spot. Making them a head taller takes a lot away from their original vibe though. I could alternatively try and give them a shadow-like body, but that just felt like an even bigger betrayal of their original design. As they are with the Tornado Step body, I can see them still sticking to their original vibe, while also barely passing through into Kingdom Hearts 1. Also, it certainly wasn't my intention, cause why would it be? But they low-key resemble the Teletubbies, and Pikmins as they look now. Probably due to their very upward antennas. Oh no, will they get kicked out for that? Does that make him less Kingdom Hearts 1-esque? Yeah, I did what I could. They're on their own now. As I'm recording this script, I'm left with feeling that their original design could have easily passed the test anyways. Despite their stumpy legs, they're still so simple that I can't see them walking around in a lot of the Kingdom Hearts 1 worlds after all. The Luna Bandit, my god do I love this one. It's one of my all-time favorite Heartless designs. It might as well be the favorite. I completely adore this palette, with the tinted yellow, the vibrant yellow, the red and the orange and the darker brown. The blue shoes feel slightly strange, but I suppose it's meant to complement the yellow and serve as an accent color. But anywho, this design is so cool. The Luna Bandit feel like an elite group of bandits. The ones from Kingdom Hearts 1 failed to properly take care of Sora and company, so they've been benched in favor of these elite SWAT bandits. Its crescent-shaped scimitars feel like a callback to Kurtzisa, and I love how they can transform them into a chakram-like weapon to throw at you. It's overall just a brilliant addition to the Agrabah Heartless, and it is completely and utterly demolished in the Final Mix version by its new and dreadful color palette. Man oh man, fuck these colors. Again, as with the Assault Rider, that's a video for the future. The only change I would make to this design is to change the base body to pure black, or at the very least change the head. But that's only in regards to sticking this guy into Kingdom Hearts 1. Otherwise, this is 100% a Kingdom Hearts 1 design, no doubt about it. It's humanoid, based on a type of person, or occupation if you will, if you can even call being a bandit that. It's got vibrant and fun colors, and serve as a solid threat with its determined stance and brutal weapons. The Fortune Teller is a Heartless I feel could mostly work in Kingdom Hearts 1 as it is. It's got the zigzags on its pants and the swirl on its head, as well as being humanoid and based on a type of person. I was originally not going to do any changes here, but again, for the sake of the exercise, I made some smaller changes after all. I slightly altered the proportions to be a bit more similar to the general proportions of such Heartless as Bandit, Pirate and Air Pirate, and with that I also gave her bigger shoes akin to the Fat Bandits. I also made her breasts less prominent. Okay, that's a lie, I straight up removed them. I generally feel the Heartless tend to be gender neutral, so seeing one display something which so obviously indicated their gender seemed a bit weird to me. Yes, there's the Power Wild and the Bouncy Wild, which you could label as boy and girl, but I feel they're more just masculine and feminine rather than straight up male and female.
Also, I'm a guy, so I'm obviously biased. I might have some blind spot. Maybe there's a bunch of Heartless that very clearly are meant to be male. I don't know. My point is, it just felt weird to have a Heartless so obviously have breasts. Maybe there's a Heartless with a massive bulge and I've just never noticed it. With the finished result, I toyed around with the colors a bit, as the bright pink didn't quite feel like it fit for Kingdom Hearts 1. I tried to see if leaning it towards Jasmine's colors would solve it, but I wasn't very satisfied with the result. Then I thought, okay, what about red then? But that one also felt wrong. I guess the issue with both of these are that they're so monochrome, with too little color variations to make him interesting. Anyways, I ultimately circled back to the pink one, but darkened the colors. And now I think we're onto something. As it appears now, it's a much better fit alongside the many dark colored Heartless such as the Soldier, Air Pirate, Large Body, Defender and so on. While they now also fit right into the whole Arabian Night theme. Yeah. As I look now, I could easily see the fortune tellers crawl up from the sand outside of the Cave of Wonders to Ambersor and company. Yeah, these guys are ready to crawl into the club now. Next up is the graveyard, and wow, is it an actual menace. While the Trick Ghost is goofing around, looking for its lost brother, the Treat Ghost, and doing its absolute best to ruin Halloween Town's reputation as scary as Kingdom Hearts 1 world, the graveyard comes in clutch to do all the heavy lifting to remind you, yes, be very afraid. It's a fantastic monster, obviously based on a Jack-in-the-Box, with a surprising second form. Makes you wonder if it's hiding away anything else down there. It's a great Heartless, but it's just too complicated for Kingdom Hearts 1. So for it to properly translate to Kingdom Hearts 1, I feel I have to do something that I'll only do for this one and the next Heartless, and that is to divide it into two. The graveyard has now been split into the Gravebox and the Pumpkin Terror, both of which I feel have a better chance of getting into Kingdom Hearts 1. The grave that occasionally pops up have unfortunately been lost in translation, as I don't see it being able to become its own third Heartless. Nor do I think it would fit for it to remain on top of the Gravebox. I could imagine such a Spider Gravebox Heartless being a foe in 358 over 2 days. That's far more its style of Heartless, but I just can't see it appearing in Kingdom Hearts 1. The way I envision these appearing in battle is that the Pumpkin Terrors either spawn on their own, or the Gravebox will spawn and shoot balls of darkness out of itself, which will then summon multiple Pumpkin Terrors. The emblem is on the back, by the way, in case anyone thought I forgot to add it. It just felt the most natural to have it be there. Or maybe for the Gravebox it could have been better to have it on the lid. Oh well. And as I mentioned, this next one is being split as well. The Toy Soldier is now just a soldier, retaining its name of course. It has completely ditched the box it came with, and while you sleep it will come to your house and free all your Funko Pops from their box prisons as well. Meanwhile, the box is now simply called Toy Box,
and has, in its absence of a host, asked Buzz and Woody
to come and play inside of him. They unfortunately declined cause they found the suggestion to be a bit too intimate. I envisioned that this one can also spawn toy soldiers similar to the Gravebox summoning Pumpkin Terrors. Originally, the Toy Soldier had a pumpkin fella which would pop up and attack you, but that's also been removed, and the pumpkin toy lies instead dead with the aforementioned grave somewhere in the realm of darkness. There's not much else to say, as the thought process here is identical to what I did with the graveyard. As the Toy Soldier now appears, I'd say he is quite ready to join the Avengers. No, not those Avengers. I'm referring to the famous quintuple threat from Kingdom Hearts 1's Hades Cup, consisting of the Bandit, the White Knight, the Pirate, the Soldier, the Power Wile, and now, also, the Toy Soldier. Next up is the Drillamo, the only Heartless in Kingdom Hearts 1 and Kingdom Hearts 2 to have both of its eyes represented by crosses. The Pirate only has one cross with the other eye represented by a swirl. The crosses are, what I assume, a reference to the mole species' general terrible eyesight. My feelings towards this design are a bit half and half. On one hand, I find this design to be a bit whatever, but as a creature which appears in Christmas Town, I quite appreciate it as it totally looks like some weird toy to crawl out of Santa's workshop. But regardless of my feelings, we're here to figure out how to sneak this fella into Kingdom Hearts 1.
I guess it can just go underground and sneak in that way.
But let's dress him up anyways. First off, the wheels. There are no wheels in Kingdom Hearts 1, so from now on it'll have legs instead. And it'll join all the other humanoid Heartlesses. I do want it to retain a similar vibe expressed through its animation though, so with the wheels gone,
which had it move rapidly back and forth, I now envision it hastily wiggling back and forth on its feet or toes instead.
As I said, the drilling mold's got this workshop feeling to it. With the wheels, a pot-shaped body, a drill on its face, as well as some odd helmet, it feels like a toy that was rushed together and shipped out without much thought given to it. I wish to retain this made in a garage using scraps vibe, and with the wheels now gone, which did a lot of the heavy lifting in that department, I'll have to make some changes elsewhere. Originally, I wanted to change the zigzag antennas to swirly ones, as I feel the current ones are oddly placed and halts the overall flow going through it. But while working on the redesign, I discovered that the actual issue is just how they're positioned. By having them point slightly upwards rather than horizontally straight out, the design flows a bit better. I still changed one of them to a swirl, but that was to evoke that feeling of being hastily cobbled together. I also changed one of the eyes to a swirl as well for the same reason, and made sure to have the swirls on opposite sides to even out the design. And there you have it, the driller moles ready to barge into the club and spin around on the dance floor. The living bone. I suppose it's meant to resemble some sort of dinosaur, but to me it looks more like an oversized dead Sasu, which I suppose isn't that strange, as they're evolutionarily connected. I struggle a bit with pinpointing what was in need of alterations. I don't think it passes the test, but why? Is it over detailed? Not really. Is it too sharp? Perhaps. And it's also based on a creature, so it's got that going for it. I guess it's almost too big to be your average grunt enemy, but is it that much bigger than a defender? The battleship certainly is bigger anyways. With a loss for where to start, I simply began by pulling back on some of the details, as well as softening the overall design. I then chose to take a bit of inspiration from the Behemoth's design, as that's the only Kingdom Hearts 1 Heartless, which I felt kind of had a similar style to it. Or at the very least, the living bone could be made to have a similar vibe. The eyes are now swirls, and the swirly eyes on the tail are now the sort of eyes you'd see on the Behemoth, Wyvern and Kurtzisa. I chose to switch them around to give it that kind of odd feel you get with the Defender in terms of where the Heartless brain seemingly resides. It's also just a bit more whimsical to have it that way. I'm still not sure if I could see this appearing in the first game. If it had, it probably would have been some sort of extra boss in the Colosseum, or perhaps something you'd find in the final dungeon of the end of the world. The Shaman and the Necromancer. The main thing holding the Shaman back from being a Kingdom Hearts 1 Heartless is that it's just got too much details in my opinion. In my reimagining, I've tried to simplify it and also push towards having it slightly resemble the Power and Bouncy Wilds. I also removed the eyes to give it a more mysterious flair to it, which I feel is fitting for a Heartless design to be the master of the mystic arts. Beyond that, I don't think I have much more to add to this thought process. Anyways, I've now been called up by the bouncer, and I'm informed that the Shaman is allowed to enter. Unfortunately, the Shaman seems more interested in playing with the monkey bars across the street. What can you do? Next we have the aerial knocker, and good lord, I am not a fan of these. I don't know why, cause there honestly is a lot to appreciate here. I find the wings coming out of its head rather than the back to be humorous, and the type of playfulness I'd expect from the Heartless when toying around with its inspiration. But as a whole, it just flows so poorly for me. Boxing gloves on its feet is funny too, but there's just no sense of harmony between the head and the lower body in my opinion. It also has those new eyes, which I really don't like, and the mouth too is also very off-putting. It's got zigzag teeth like the rest, but the texture just makes it appear wrong. It's giving Jaws from James Bond. I wanted to keep the wings on the head, as that's its big selling point, but the feet I decided to turn into arms, thus making it feel slightly more humanoid. I also removed the beak and the strange metallic teeth. Lastly, I changed the eyes to be proper Kingdom Hearts swirls, though I struggle to decide between black or yellow swirls, or if it even should have traditional eyes. In the end, I'm not very satisfied. The exercise is to alter them till they fit Kingdom Hearts 1's Gallery of Heartless, while also being true to their original idea. I've tried to be as honorable of the original design as I could, parallel to making the necessary modifications, but it still just feels wrong, feels less like a Heartless than to begin with. The bouncer isn't particularly impressed either, and asked the aerial knocker to take a few rounds around the block before coming back. The Armored Knight is in my opinion the quintessential Kingdom Hearts 2 design. Everything you need to know about Kingdom Hearts 2's Heartless design philosophy can be summed up by looking at a picture of the Armored Knight as well as the Hot Rod. There's a spectrum. There's hardly any colors, it's very angular and spiky, and tremendously edgy looking. It's probably one of the most iconic Kingdom Hearts 2 Heartless, thanks to the Battle of 1000 Heartless, which, just a side note, had far more than 1000 Heartless participating. So why are we calling it that? That one specific fight in the Great Maw had you go up against 1000 Heartless, but the invasion as a whole included far more. Anyways, with its spiky feet, relatively slim waist and muted colors, it almost appears like a leftover nobody design that got turned into a Heartless at the 11th hour. I don't think that's true, but I'm positive that's not true. I'm just saying it leans more towards feeling like a nobody than a Heartless. But the nobody design breakdown is a video for another day, so put a pin in that and we'll continue on. As I said in my previous video, when I first encountered the soldier as a child, I assumed it was a shadow variation wearing some armor. And that's how I view many of the Heartless still. So a design change I think could be very fitting for this one, and help with our task is to turn the Armored Knight into being a Neo Shadow variation with armor. By doing so, it is more directly connected to Kingdom Hearts 1, or at least Kingdom Hearts 1 Final Mix, and allows us to remove those spiky feet. Beyond that, it's just making the rest of the armor a bit curvier and not so hard and straight. Lastly, I'll make a few color alterations such as turning up the blues a bit. Very few Kingdom Hearts 1 Heartless are as devoid of color as the Armored Knight is. The only ones which come to mind are obviously the Purebloods and the Stealth Army. But even the Purebloods feel somewhat more vibrant and alive than Mr. Grey over here. As it is now, I think he can safely pass through the door and proudly enter the Kingdom Hearts 1 party.
The surveillance robot, it wasn't as good at surveilling as Xehanort had hoped,
and would usually just stare mindlessly at its targets, thus it got redubbed Watcher in subsequent appearances. I had very little clue as to how to convince the bouncer to let this sharp and pointy fella into the club. Softening it didn't seem to be enough, it needed other changes too, I felt. My best suggestion was to make it a distant relative of the magic mages. But whereas they wear robes and hats, this one wears armor instead and also carries multiple weapons. Its laser guns are inspired by how the opposite armor uses its body to shoot laser balls at you. Though I still imagine the surveillance robot to fire lasers and not electric cannonballs. Sticking with a similar palette but adding in a bit more yellow, I still don't know if it'll get a pass. The colors are too muted and too monochrome. There's monochrome Heartless in Kingdom Hearts 1, but their colors aren't as dull as this one. So I borrowed the palette from the surveillance robot's sibling, the Destroyer. Initially, with its brown palette, it could still maybe sneak into Kingdom Hearts 1, but only lurk around in the dungeons of Hollow Bastion. Otherwise, it'd get caught and kicked out.
Borrowing the Destroyer's colors,
it can now more safely skulk around in other areas too, such as the Cave of Wonders and Monstro's chambers without getting the boot. But I suppose the through line is that it's still relegated to chambers and dungeons only, and won't see a flick of sunlight. In the end, I'm still not sure about this one. If any of you watching this gets a clever idea, please make a sketch of it, or even a full drawing and tag me on either Twitter or Blue Sky. I'd love to see other people's takes on this exercise. And that goes for all the Heartlesses, not just this one.
Now in between recording sessions I've gotten a cold, so yeah, please bear with me as my voice slightly changes. Next up we have the bulky vendor. I don't think the legs work, nor does the mouth. I was playing around with what sort of legs could have been better, but a lot of my modifications just didn't work. It's quite frantically animated and I wanted to retain that. I eventually found that relating this to the magic mages as well would visually link it more to Kingdom Hearts 1. I could also see it zipping around in the air while keeping a similar frantic energy in its animation. The whole point of these is to catch them. Having them fly around would only add to the challenge and also maybe make it visually a bit more satisfying to catch them, as you slam dunk them to the ground to collect your reward. The original mouth is fun and frightening, but I had to change it to a simpler zigzag. I still envision it being able to spit out balls from it, of course. I also noticed that once I was finished coloring, that I'd made the lower part the same size as the upper part, while the original one had a bigger upper part and a smaller lower part. Referring back to the bit about how symmetrical lines can often be quite boring, same goes for shapes and proportions. A body where all the parts are the same size are often less visually interesting compared to a body where the sizes vary. I made a quick edit to account for the mistake I made. You're free to decide which of these you prefer. Here's also an alternate version with swirly eyes. But in the end, I missed having some yellow at the bottom, so that's what I went with. I could have made the swirly eyes yellow, but as Kingdom Hearts 1 for the most part only had black swirls, I preferred to stick with that as much as possible. Though I'm a bit inconsistent with that regarding some of the other designs. Oops. However, those are more cases of me keeping the color swirls from Kingdom Hearts 2, rather than adding ones that never were there to begin with. The Mushroom 13 gets a pass as well, and can walk into the Kingdom Hearts 1 club with ease. It's just another Shroom Heartless, but with slightly more details than the ones from the first game. There's nothing I can do here to make it fit more into Kingdom Hearts 1's aesthetics other than to maybe strip it off some of the details. Remove the lines on its hat, remove the pockets. Nah, I think this one is fine and in no need of any redesign. Moving on to the Space Paranoid's Heartless. All of these are great, but translating them to Kingdom Hearts 1 was a bit of a task. The biggest issue is that a world such as Space Paranoids would have never appeared in Kingdom Hearts 1. Back in the day it was wild enough to see Tron and Pirates of the Caribbean being included into Kingdom Hearts at all. So for these to make the jump back into Kingdom Hearts 1, we'd have to strip away all those digital colors and patterns and aim them towards a different world. Now there are no Disney worlds in Kingdom Hearts 1, which would be a proper fit for these guys, even after I'm done redesigning them. So I've redesigned them to be Heartless that show up in Traverse Town's 3rd District and Gizmo Shop, as well as the Lift Shop in Hollow Bastion. The digital parts of the Magnum Loader have been removed, and I've pushed it towards being a mechanical type of Heartless. I've had to remove the wheel for reasons already explained. The Magnum Loader feels very light on its feet, not feet but wheel, almost as if it's levitating and gliding around you. So it felt natural to have it do that in the absence of its wheel. I've also softened it a bit and replaced all the lines with mostly zigzags. Once again, I wasn't too sure with how to handle the colors on this fella, but I think this is fine. I've aimed the strafer to be in the same areas as the redesigned Magnum Loader. This design needs to do away with all those digital lines, as well as soften the head a bit. It's very thin, similar to many other Kingdom Hearts 2 Heartless, Minute Bomb, Land Soldier, Shaman, as well as the Morningstar's arms. So I'll have it be slightly taller and a bit fuller. I'll also be adding hands and lean it toward a similar build to that of the Air Pirate. Adding in the colors, and now it looks like it's in charge of the Gizmo Shop. The end result vaguely reminds me of something you'd see in Ratchet & Clank, particularly the 2nd and 3rd game, but that's an entirely different club on the other side of the town. The Devastator, another favorite of mine. Love the purple, and love how it's made up of mainly 5 triangles, the 4 legs being thin triangles and the body being an upside down triangle. You can even vaguely make out the triangle on its laser cannon. The only part of its design that's bothered me is the big pureblood head. Going back to my point of Emblem Heartless often feeling like they're purebloods wearing armor or costumes, I can't help but feel a Dark Ball-esque Heartless would have fit better as this guy's head. It's just so plain as it is, as if an oversized Giga Shadow is piloting this machine. A Dark Ball head also makes it a bit more threatening, don't you think? Now for the transformation. As his body is so triangle shaped, I thought I'd lean it towards the guard armor. As with the previous 2 Heartless, I'm pushing it towards a Traverse Town vibe. The end result I've got I could see showing up in Traverse Town alongside the Dark Balls and Defenders during the endgame of Kingdom Hearts 1. It could also easily appear anywhere inside of Hollow Bastion, as well as certain parts of the end of the world. The Reckless is the only new recolored Heartless in Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix that both looks and attacks a bit different from its original version. This is a form the Devastator will transform into during certain attacks, while the Reckless, however, is constantly locked in this state and will never alter between flying and walking on all 4. And as it constantly appears in this different form, I couldn't ignore it like I've done all the other recolors. I couldn't just say, hey, imagine the redesigned Devastator but with different colors. And so I redrew this one too. But in the end, it looks exactly the same as the Devastator, just in that different stance. Same as the previous 3, removing it to Traverse Town. Sheesh, the amount of Heartless I've thrown at Traverse Town these past 50 minutes. There's probably no town left there anymore. Just the Traverse ruins.
Okay, so that is a wrap. I've now gone through all of the lesser Heartless from Kingdom Hearts 2, and as I said at the start of the video, I might do the bosses in the future. Maybe not. We'll see. We'll see. I don't have some huge epic conclusion to all of this. I just want to once again reiterate that I don't disagree that a lot of the original designs work a lot better for what they were trying to do than my redesigns. Bulky Vendors, for an example. Bulky Vendors' original design is much more fun and thorough in its reference to a candy vendor than I feel like I managed to muster up in my redesign. I just don't think it would have worked as well next to a lot of the Kingdom Hearts 1 Heartless in those Kingdom Hearts 1 worlds. And as I mentioned, if you want to take a stab at this exercise yourself, please tag me on Twitter or Blue Sky. I'd love to see other people doing this exercise as well, not just me doing it. I'd love to see how other people would approach it. Maybe come up with some excellent solutions I was unable to think of myself. I would just love to see that. And I'd also like to hear which of my redesigns you thought, which you liked the best, which you thought were the most fitting for the exercise. If there were some you thought I didn't quite handle as well, that you think, you could have done this better. Or if there were some of the ones I didn't redesign and just let on through. If you disagree with that, please explain why you think they wouldn't fit in with Kingdom Hearts 1. As well as explaining why you think some of the ones I did redesign, why you think those would have fit in with Kingdom Hearts 1 after all. Please share that with me. I'd love to hear that. As I said, I'll probably do the bosses at some point. It just feels odd to not do them, but that'll be far off. I've got other things planned next. I've got a ranking I've been working on for a long time that I'm hoping I'll get done soon. I've gone over the Heartless motifs in my previous video, so it'd be fun to take a look at the nobodies. I haven't really ever properly dived into the nobodies, so that could be fun. I was hoping to get this video done in May, but then I moved, then I got sick multiple times, so that was fun. I was so annoying because I felt like I was so close to getting it finished and it just kept on being postponed again and again and again. So I'm very, very happy to be finished with this project, and it's been a joy. It's been a struggle, been mostly a joy. And if you've stuck around for this entire section, if you're watching this, thank you very much, and I hope you'll join me in the next one, which will most likely be quite different from the two ones I've just done. Won't be so Heartless focused, probably won't be so design focused, but we'll see. I'm not quite sure what the next video will be just yet. Once again, thank you very much for sticking around, and I'll see you later. Bye.